Outliers. Our objective, we want to check a data set for outliers. So what do we know? We know what the interquartile range is, and we know how to calculate it. The interquartile range is the range of the middle 50% of the observations in a data set. The middle 50% is the data between quartile 1 and quartile 3. And the way we calculate the interquartile range is we take quartile 3 and we subtract quartile 1, and we get that number. We get that range between the two, the distance between the two. What are outliers? Outliers, well, the name says it, values that lie outside or far away from the other values. They are extreme observations. An outlier is way out there somewhere, at least according to some mathematics we're going to do. It's beyond the normal data to the left or to the right, okay? How do we find them? Mathematically, how do we find these outliers? We find them using the interquartile range to determine fences. Okay, those are the cutoff points for outliers. We determine a fence, and if you're beyond the fence, you're an outlier. And the fence will be there'll be a fence for the high numbers. And if you're beyond that fence, you're an outlier. There'll be a fence for the low data values. And if you're to the left of that fence, beyond that fence, you're also an outlier. Okay, compute the IQR. Of course, if we're going to use the interquartile range, we got to first compute that. We determine the lower fence of the upper fence by saying, for the lower fence, take Q1 and subtract 1.5 times the IQR. That becomes where we're going to place that lower fence. Upper fence, we'll do a similar thing. We'll take quartile 3's value. We'll add 1.5 times the IQR, and that will mark our upper fence. If a value is less than the lower fence, we call it an outlier. If the value is greater than the upper fence, we call that an outlier. Okay, so two possibilities. Let's take a look here at an example as to how to do this. All right, in the data for StatCrunch 3.4.22, again, we've done this example a couple times, the hemoglobin for 20 randomly selected cats. We determined that quartile 3 was 11.1 and quartile 1 was 9.15 and the IQR was 1.85 when we did the math. Do we have any outliers? Well, we've already computed the IQR. It's here. So now let's determine where we're going to put our fences. All right, so where is our lower fence below which any data point would be called an outlier? Our lower fence is going to be quartile 1, 9.15, minus 1.5 times the IQR. The IQR is 1.85. Put that into a calculator, and 6.375 is what comes out. So if any of our hemoglobin scores are below less than 6.375, they become an outlier. Let's take a look at our upper fence. Upper fence says take quartile 3, 11.1, and add 1.5 times the IQR. The IQR again is 1.85. Do the math, and our upper fence is 13.875 grams per deciliter. Okay, that's the upper fence. Anything that is any result, any hemoglobin measurement that is greater than 13.875, 14, 15, 16, etc., we're going to call an outlier. Okay, let's take a look at that data set. We want to see, is anything below 6.375 and or is anything above 13.875? Okay, get into here. I think I've got that. I think that's clear. Okay, 3422, there we go, right there. Here's our hemoglobin set. And let's see, is anything below 6.375? Yep, that one is. That's below 6.375. If I scroll down here, I think there were 20. I can get them all on the screen. I sure can get them all on the screen. Well, I can't get them all on your screen. Let me move it up so you can see them all. Anything below anything below 6.375. This one is too high, too high. Yep, only that one. So we have one outlier that is below the lower fence. It's 5.7. How about any outliers that are above the upper fence? Upper fence is 13.875. And I have no number. My largest number is 13.4. I have no number above 13.875, so I have no outliers that are above that. I only have one outlier, and that's a low outlier. So one outlier at 5.7. No data point is above 13.875. So there we have it. We've just determined our fences, and then we've determined if we have any values that are outliers, and if so, what they are. You can have outliers on either end, one or the other. You can have both. You can have none. You need to make use of calculating your fences and then going to look for them.